All right, I'm with Damen Lopez, author of the book No Excuse University. Hundreds of schools, thousands of dreams. Wait, thousands of students, one big dream. Also does a lot of consulting and was once the principal of Lois Penn, a very high-achieving school. Damen, just tell me a little bit about your experiences as a school site principal. What are some things that come to mind?
Oh man, that's a broad question. First of all, thank you for interviewing me in a t-shirt. I'm sure that your students are going to appreciate that. When it comes to being a principal, let me just start with what I love. I mean, I love the relationships that I had with staff, and I love the relationships I had with kids and with the parents. And I know that sounds cliche, but the reality is, if you don't love that, that's the wrong line of work to go into. I mean, a principal's job is about relationships, plain and simple. And I think that's what I miss most. I get that a lot as I go around the country and work with schools, but I do miss the daily work of making lives better for kids. And as, not to pitch my book, but as my book shares, I mean, we are the last stop for these kids of poverty to get out of poverty. And if we don't do our job, then everything's going to continue. This cycle's going to continue. So you got to take it seriously. But you have to enjoy the experience at the same time.
That's great. Damen, tell me a little bit about some of your experiences with just kind of general politics in education as your experience as a school site principal.
No expletives, right?
Yeah, keep pressing to a minimum.
You know, I think innately I was not born to deal with politics very well, so I don't know that I'm the best guy, but I can tell you I know how to play the game. It's my least favorite part about public education, and I think that is probably the most important thing that a principal does outside of those relationships they build is to minimize the politics. In other words, there's a lot of times where district office will send something down for you to do, a task, whatnot, and the principal's job is to take care of that without it getting all over the rest of the staff. The teachers are packed with a day that is filled with the heavy lifting, and our job as principals is to try to take those roadblocks out of the way so they can do that and not to put all this other junk on their shoulders. And quite frankly, there's a lot of principals out there who do put it on their shoulders, and I think that creates an environment where teachers get ticked off and they don't want to work as hard, they don't want to be as innovative. And so the politics is necessary when you're dealing with a large district, but the principal needs to know how to handle those politics so it doesn't get all over everybody else.
Well, that's interesting. Now, Damen, tell me a little bit about conflict. I mean, conflict is sort of inevitable in any organization. How do you deal with conflict?
This just happened to be. How do I deal with conflict? Candor. One word, candor. And just to give you a tip, one of the best books, chapters anywhere is a book by Jack Welch called Winning, and chapter 2 is called Candor, and he gives his perspective on why companies fail because they're not candid with each other. Probably the worst industry that uses candor is probably public education, and the reason why is because teachers go into their own classrooms and they do their own thing, and they can survive like that. Principals can go in their office and do their own thing, and they can survive like that. Candor makes your stomach turn. It's not fun, but it's necessary. And the reason it's necessary is, from my point of view, when you're dealing with 5- and 6-year-olds, we have to be candid with adults to protect the needs of those kids, to put those needs first. So I think that that's the only way you can deal with conflict. It's like a Band-Aid. You just got to rip it off. It's not easy. It's not always going to be fun. But over time, it gets easier. And that's why, with our staff, we taught them what we call candid collaboration, where we taught them actually a 4-step process on how to be candid with each other. We role-played it. We took time at staff meetings to talk about it. We made it a part of the culture. You can't just go to your staff and say, okay, we need to be candid, and then that's it. You have to actually teach them how to be candid. And that's not always easy, but over time it gets better.
That is really interesting to me. So, one of the things that I know I've experienced personally is, preparing somebody for something or preparing an organization or a team for something, and then the actual doing it. So what are you experiencing, especially as a consultant, as you're teaching these skill sets to people when they actually go and they do the real thing? I mean, are there pushbacks, and how do you work through that? I mean, what are some of your tips there?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's always going to be pushbacks. I mean, you've heard it over and over again. I don't have to tell you, but if everybody's pleased with you, you're probably not doing something right, and that's the truth. I mean, you are going to have people who are pissed at you for one thing or another. And what I always tried to do was I always tried to measure which people were mad at me. And if they were people I didn't respect, well, then so be it. I mean, why do I want them to be on my side? Why do I want their approval? Of course I'm not going to get the approval of a terrible teacher because they're terrible at teaching and I'm all over them. So I think one of the tips is stop wanting to be liked by everybody. Leaders aren't going to be liked by everybody. That's not our job, Our job is to continue to create results, and I think you can do it with a sense of stewardship. I know that you can do it with a sense of servant leadership. I feel very strongly about that. But you have to have your line in the sand. You have to decide, what's crossing that line for you. And so I think that probably when I go out and I work with staffs, and I work with principals especially, I let them know, stop whining that everybody's not on board. Of course they're not all going to be on board. Anywhere you go, you're dealing with 85 or 90% of people who make up the critical mass who are on board. Consider yourself, fortunate that that's the case, and don't ever let 3 or 4 people hold you back from going forward.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Now, tell me this: you have those 1 or 2, 3, however many naysayers, who at that moment in time, for whatever reason, aren't pleased with you. How do you deal with them? I mean, do you bring them in close? Do you try to befriend them? I mean, do you just kind of say, hey, this is my school side. This is what we believe in. Blah blah blah. I mean, how do you work with that?
Well, I think, and I'll share with you what I share with people all over, and I've had this personal experience that, you first and foremost, you want to try to embrace these people. You want to try to find out where their gifts are. You want to work with them. You want to coach them. I mean, you don't want to go from being, a nice guy to a mean guy, in an instant. I think that takes a progression before you have to put your thumb on somebody. But I will tell you this. I get the question all the time, what do you do with somebody who doesn't want to work with the team? And it used to be where we used to try to just find whatever we could do. We had to make them a part of the team. I finally came to the conclusion, you know what? That's a gift to be a part of a highly collaborative team. And so one personal instance that I had was I had a person who was toxic to the team environment, where the team had been candid with this person, and this person still continued to fight against the work that the team was doing. And so I pulled this person in my office and I said, for 3 years you have had a great opportunity to work with a great group of people, and you have really done nothing to improve that collaborative nature of the team. And so right now I'm telling you that not only are you not going to be asked to work with the team, you're not allowed to work with that team. Your team is right here. You meet in my office every Wednesday, and guess what? Bring your grade book, bring your lesson plans, bring your standards, because I don't know a lot about 3rd grade and I want to learn, and you're going to teach me. And what you find with people like that is you either make them so mad that they just say, you know what, I'm leaving this school, which is great. Or most of the time you get those people who say, okay, I crossed the line and I better figure out how to get, collaborative, or I'm going to have to meet with this guy every week. And so I think that in the end, this idea that somebody has to participate in the team, I don't think that is always the case. I think that sometimes you get addition by subtraction, where you take somebody out and the team works better. It's a last case scenario. It doesn't happen all the time, but I'm a big fan of saying, you know what, fine, forget it. We'll pull you out. You can be my team.
That's great. So one of the last questions is, if you were to do something like that, what would kind of be your way of covering your own back? Would you go to the district and you kind of give them like, hey, a heads up, this is a conversation I'm having, this is why, you may get a call from this person?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give bad advice to new principals or future administrators. I think that a relationship with human resources is huge. I had a really good partnership with our director, and I would always give my scenarios to him and let him know, this is what's going on, can you give me some advice? And I always, fortunately for me, I had some great advice. But I will tell you this, that there comes a point where you have to take a stand as a leader and decide, how are you going to lead? And a saying I always had for myself is, work every day like you're not afraid to be fired. I mean, we have principals out there who are, walking that straight, fine line because they don't want to lose their job. Well, I got news for you, okay? Good leaders are hard to find. You lose your job in a district for being a strong leader, I guarantee you will get a job somewhere else. Don't be a wimp. That's what I'm telling you. Don't be a wimp. Go out and do what's right. We all know right from wrong. There's these people who tell you, oh no, it's all great bull. There is right and there is wrong. And when teachers cross the line, you stand up. And you're not standing up you against them. You're standing up the kids against them. That's what people don't understand. It's not about you as an individual. It is about the student. And you are their advocate. And if you don't have the guts to be their advocate, get out of that position. I'm hopeful, and I share this candidly with you, because we need more leaders like that. And that's one of the biggest reasons I think our schools are failing, is we don't have leaders that are always standing up for the sake of those kids. They're worried about their job or hurting someone's feelings. We got to get away from that, and I guarantee you, if you do, you will have more fun at this job than ever.